This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, I'm Paige Cargioli, and my business is Open Heart Holistic Therapy. And I am an EPT practitioner. EPT stands for Emotional Polarity Technique, which is a totally different approach in emotional health care. Instead of relying on regular talk therapy or medication, EPT relies on the science of forgiveness to help people get through tough stuff so they can enjoy their life more and just have more joy in whatever the circumstances there are or they're in. So today we have Yvette. Thank you, Yvette, for volunteering to do this EPT Live. Is it okay that we are recording this
Yeah.
session?
Yes.
And then is it okay if we post this on social media?
Yes.
All right. And of course, if like there's something that comes up and you're like, no, don't do it, that's fine. Just let us know. But otherwise, you're gonna have this recording. I've got Dr. Annette. She's in the chat box and typing up all the statements for you. And yeah, we'll have this. So Yvette, I know we've already talked a little bit about what we're going to do today, but if you could just tell me what is it that you would really like to focus on today?
Just my own well-being.
Okay. And like when you say your own well-being, in what sense? Like physically, or you're like just being happier, um, loving yourself more?
I'm not having any trouble focusing on myself. Once I know that someone doesn't want anything to do with me, I'm done. So I have transitioned already into taking care of myself. I can do that very, very well. I just want to make sure that I stay focused on what my future goals are, and that I stay focused on that I am my own priority, period. I am my own priority, and that my well-being supersedes anybody else's well-being, because I put everybody else before me, only to be left with nothing. So I am on track because I've always been good at taking care of myself, but I just want to make sure that I stay on that and that I heal whatever it is, any kind of feelings of betrayal that I feel with people, or I feel like people weren't grateful for everything that I've sacrificed. And I've already been working, as you well know. I don't sit passively and let things just happen. I have avenues, so I have already been going on that route of that. I know that I did the best job possible and that I gave everything I could.
Mm-hmm.
And I have nothing more to give, nor do I want to give anything else. And I just
And also, but it's also letting go of the whatever you think you're owed from that gift.
right. Well, I've gotten to the point where, again, because I do a lot of work, I've gotten to the point that I accomplished what I set out to accomplish, and that was to not be the mother that I had. And I'm working on getting to the point that I can see that, whether anybody else gives me a pat on the back for it or not, that I give myself the accolades, that I set out to do something and that I did it and I accomplished it, and I can now move on
I
to
like
create
that.
what I want for myself.
Yeah, where you can know you did what you needed to do, well, to get your kid to where he needs to be, and now it's time to like, I mean, empty nest might be a word, or just like launch. Maybe
Yeah, and
both of you need to kind of
I feel
launch.
relief. To be honest with you, I feel a relief. I'm not sleeping well, but that could be a lot of things, because I'm also going through menopause, which a lot of people keep forgetting. Is I'm going through menopause, so my hormones are all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I'm exhausted. I've always been exhausted. So there has been a relief finally,
Mm-hmm.
to reclaim the person I was, and reclaim the life that I had before I became Rudy's wife and Elliot's mother. So that girl, I'm going after her. She doesn't deserve to be by herself, so I'm showing up for her.
Yes, but it's also not going back. It's going forward and being like, this is where I am now, where I am still like I was Rudy's, wife, and I am Elliot's mom, but that does my job is different now. Like it's I can still be there for me.
Yeah, maybe I didn't explain it right, but yeah, no, I don't want to go back to that person I was, because that person that I was got me into a lot of trouble too. I gave away the farm. I gave away everything. So I'm learning from that, but still knowing that I did exactly what I set out to do, and that I was able to conquer not doing what my mother did to me. And now I'm reclaiming myself back. I am showing up for me and
Okay.
I'm my own white knight. I'm not waiting for anybody to save me.
Okay, so we're gonna like take all of this, and so for anybody who's watching, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do muscle testing, and usually when if Yvette's in person with me, I use her body to muscle test, but since we're doing this remotely, I use myself, so I use my hand to do muscle testing. Um, and I would say in an online session versus in person, it's about 80% the same. You know, the energy is just different when you're in the room with a person, but also, you know, I'm working directly with their body, and otherwise we're distant, but we also know each other. We work together. So, all right. So, what we're gonna do, actually, also even just before doing any testing, we're gonna do a little rapport. So I have magnets, but I don't think you have magnets, right? Okay, so we'll just use your hands. Your hands are magnetic. Um, so go ahead and put your hands, if you can, on your head like this. And you're gonna squeeze and inhale, and then release and exhale, and we'll do that 3 times. All right, so breathe in. Yeah. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Yeah. And then you're going to put a finger here, right on the bridge of your nose, and then a finger on like the base of your skull behind your head. And it's kind of the same thing. You kind of squeeze and lift and breathe in. So it's breathe in and breathe out, and then breathe in, breathe out, and breathe in. Now. All right, you put your hands down. All right, so just think about this, you know, wanting to stay focused, stay present, but also let go of this betrayal or expectations, knowing you are where you need to be now. That's basically what it is. No? Okay. 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 All right, so I was just testing to see what the distress level is, if there's any elation, what the stage of healing is, and also if there's any blocks to healing. So the distress on this is about a 9. So I think that there's a distress in maybe being present, because maybe it's just kind of a scary thought, like I'm not sure like where to go or what to do exactly. Like you do know, but there's something like holding you back from maybe doing it. Um, and then the elation is a 0. And I think if we're staying present, we want to feel more elated, more excited, more happy, or more joy and security in being in the present, not just 0. So hopefully we can get your elation up so you can feel happier in the present, and being there for yourself. And then the stage of healing is anger. So for anyone watching, stages of healing are from Barbara Brennan's book, Light Emerging. And the 7 stages of healing are denial, anger, bargain, depression, acceptance, which are just like the stages of grief. And then there's light emerging and creation of new life. So in our session, we're going to try to get you at least into acceptance, but I'm sure we can also get into light emerging and creation of new life, because we want you to start to create something new, start to, you know, pave your way and make your story so that it doesn't have to be this the same thing or painful to get what you want. All right, and then letting go was the other thing, weak. So I was checking to see if you're able to show up, pay attention, tell the truth, or let go. And letting go was weak. That just helps me to make statements so that I can incorporate them when we get there. But it's hard to heal if you're not able to show up, pay attention, tell the truth, or let go. So we're gonna move you through all of this. So and then I'm testing how many issues. This 1. So we'll see what comes up. And for anybody, again, who's watching, I have all these charts that I'm testing. So I'm following through on these charts in EPT. So who? Self. It's lung, grief, my grief. So I feel my grief. So with somebody else, I feel my grief with my dad. So I feel so currently. So so I know he's been gone, right?
Yes.
So what would you feel grief with your dad about right now, or why would you feel grief with your dad?
Why would I feel grief with my dad?
Yeah, I feel grief or about my dad.
My father was my hero. He was an amazing example. He
Mm-hmm.
was an amazing example of a person. I certainly can never live up to his standards. It's a shame that I didn't learn more from him, actually.
All right.
And he loved Elliot immensely. My father had 4 grandchildren, and the only child that he wanted by his side when he died was Elliot.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
My father was the only person that ever came to visit me and Elliot when no other member of the family came to visit. It was my father. It was my father's money that helped us when he passed away. My father was an amazing, accomplished individual, and shame on me for not learning more from him. My father died very peacefully. He was at peace when he died. And I consider myself very lucky because my father, we both, for years, like for about 10, 15 years before he passed away, there was nothing left unsaid between us. Anything that I felt I needed to apologize to him about, I apologized. And he actually apologized to me first, saying if I wasn't a great dad. And he did it several times. Me and my father had a very spiritual relationship. And I'm very lucky because a lot of people don't have that story. A lot of people have the story of having an amazing father. And thank God that I got to know him, not just when he died. You know what I mean? That I started to know who he was very early, at 17 years old. My father and I had a very spiritual relationship. So yeah, I am grieving my father. I'm grieving my father very much, but I'm at peace because there was nothing left unsaid. It's very sad how much he loved Elliot and the things that he did. Like I said, he was the only grandchild he asked to be by his side, and the only one that my father made an effort for. My father never went to visit his other grandchildren because of the way my brothers and sisters were with my father.
Wow.
So I'm grieving that it's a shame but at the same time, I'm so glad that I was able to accomplish my father's last wishes for him, and that I was able to see the value of having him in my life if nobody else did.
Yeah. So, well, and some of the things like I'm testing for, because you had said it at the beginning, like a feeling kind of like you hadn't lived up to a standard, like there would be more opportunity to learn and to grow if he was still here, and something along those lines. And that's kind of what it seems to be, almost like whatever his and I don't think, I think
Oh no, that's not what it is. My father, I never learned to stay at a job. I've never stayed at a job long enough, never. And it's a shame that my father stayed 44 years in a company. And the reason I am where I am, and the reason I can't move out and give Elliot the life that he wants to live by himself, is because I don't have a pot to piss in, and that's my own mistake. And my father's retired. There was nothing he could have done for me anymore. He set an example, and I didn't run with it. And I'm grieving that. I'm grieving that I didn't learn that. But I've already made steps. I've got 3 jobs actually. That's what I'm grieving. I'm grieving that I didn't pay attention to that when it was staring at me in the face. And here I am I got $172 in my account with no food in the refrigerator. And that wasn't my father. And I don't even know why I couldn't learn from that. Who knows? And at this point, it doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm 53, and thank God I've got my health where I can hopefully do something before I'm 73 and have something for myself.
Yes. Okay, that works too. You just like the sort of like grief that like I didn't pay attention to
Yep.
his his example. Yeah, that works too. That works too. I didn't pay attention to exam. Okay. Okay. All right, that's fine. All right, so we're gonna go to an original event now. Um, so it's in utero. Wow. Okay. And it's my grief again. So my grief in utero. Oh, with myself. My grief with myself in utero. Um, I don't know if we've gone to any place in utero. What
We did with my mother. When the last time you talked to me about me being in utero was that I was carrying my mother's pain. So
Okay, yeah.
we're doing in utero that I'm carrying her grief of thinking, oh my God, I've got 4 kids. What am I going to do with another one?
Yeah. Well, and I'm wondering if it's okay. I'm trying to think. My grief with myself in utero. My grief. Yeah, my grief with myself. Yeah, self in utero. Let's see here. So grief with yourself in utero could be. I mean, it's sort of funny because like we're thinking like right in the present, it's I'm feeling like I didn't pay attention, I didn't learn, but in utero, like your grief to be like um, I'm not learning or I'm not growing, like um, um, uh, is kind of an interesting idea, like that you felt maybe stuck in utero, not being able to grow. Oh, because your mom was starving you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Because I couldn't grow. Because I couldn't grow. Like, and you were born very small, right?
Yeah.
Um, um, like you don't have the and it's a sort of similar thing. It's like you don't have the nutrients or the things that you need in utero to really thrive and grow. And right now you're feeling like I don't have that. I didn't pay attention enough to really to thrive the way my dad would have wanted me to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So put a hand on your lung. You can do either side. Um, so hand on your lung and a hand on your forehead. And it's I feel my grief with myself when I'm in utero because I can't grow and I'm stuck. So breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. All right, and then you can take your hands down. Let me see where else we're at. Let's see. Is there another motion? Yep. Um, and then we have fear. So kidney, kidney, fear, my fear. Um, I think it's just fear I'm gonna die, like in utero.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay, so go ahead and if you can, put a hand on your low back, like where your kidney would be. and then a hand on your forehead. And then it's fear in utero that I'm going to die. So breathe in. Breathe in. Yes. Breathe in. Breathe out. All right, put your hands down. All right, there's more emotions. Let's see. Anger. So dad's anger. Yeah, dad's anger.
Dad's anger at what?
At your mom. Do you know if he was angry at her while he was pregnant with you, or before, or during?
Yeah, my father sacrificed. I don't know if I mentioned, I feel like I'm repeating my father's karma. My father sacrificed everything because he loved his family, and nobody appreciated it. He came to this country for 2 years by himself and worked 2 full-time jobs to be able to legally bring my brothers and sisters over on what they used to call a green card as legal residents, only to have her show up pregnant with somebody else's kid and not want to work, not want to get educated, not want to learn the language, nothing. And he became the bad guy. And she turned all his children, except one, guess who that was, against him.
So and I'm thinking like in utero, so like one of the things that's kind of working is angry at your mom because she ruined his life, which seems a little dramatic, but like at the time you were in utero, would that have been a feeling, or is it sort of like that?
It does seem dramatic when you're not Jewish and when you're not Hispanic.
Okay.
So, when you're talking about moving out of a country, what if you were to move to Singapore and leave your child and your husband behind and not know language?
I gotcha.
How would that feel? So yeah, it's not over dramatic. He left it in, a lot of people don't think that. Everybody that I know that left their country, that's very traumatic when you don't speak the language. And then to have your whole family against you.
But at the time you were in utero, was she already doing that? Like she was already I guess fighting with him or fighting against him.
Yeah. He brought them over. They were living with people. My brothers and sisters with my mother were living in one room with 12 other people in a communal bathroom. And apparently him bringing them here and giving them a great life was the worst thing he could have done to her. Again, the most ungrateful, ignorant thing. So yeah, my father suffered a lot. He expected a lot from the family. He didn't expect to come home and be the enemy.
So did your mom move when she was pregnant with you?
No.
Oh.
I am my father's child. I was born in this country, and when she came here with my brothers and sisters, she was pregnant with another man's child. And my father didn't know this until she lost the child. And my father didn't have any more children.
Oh, okay.
He could have been the typical Hispanic man that started another family in another country and forget about the other. And he didn't do that. Nobody's ever showed up at my door or any of our doors to say, I'm Raphael Mancipi's child. My father was a very faithful, honorable man. Okay. So yeah, he was devastated.
Okay.
He was very devastated, and I understand that.
Okay. I see. I think that works. I think.
So my father was thrilled when I was born. When I was born, my father was thrilled because he knew for sure that I was his. I look like him. Yeah, we've had DNA done. He was ecstatic that I was, and hence the reason I was his favorite and why there was a bond. I was the one that wasn't against him. I was the one that he had no doubt was his. I'm the American dream. I was the one that was born here, So yeah, my father was ecstatic. And even when he died, I think the only truth that ever came out of my family's mouth was that both my mother and my sister, on separate occasions, not together, stated, we know that your father loved you more than us and that you loved him more than us. So that was the only redemption I ever got, was that they all admitted that they knew that there was a huge bond between me and my father, and that none of them had that. So when he died, they mourned the man that they never knew.
All right, so that's what we're gonna go. It's his anger at your mom because she ruined his life, which, in a certain sense, like having you was sort of it was like it was some sort of like you were like some sort of redemption for him, like in this
Yeah,
relationship. Okay,
yeah.
which is a lot to take on as a little baby. Go ahead and put your hand on your liver. So that's your right side, just at your rib cage, and then a hand on your forehead. And then it's thinking about your dad's anger at your mom because she ruined his life when you were in utero. So breathe in. Breathe in. Breathe in. All right, and you can take your hands down. All right, and then we're gonna do forgive. Wait, phase 2. Okay. So we're gonna do forgiveness statements now. But I'm also thinking, like, when you were in utero, there was like just these extremes of like I'm kind of like the redemption, but also I'm living in this situation where, there's like like you have to choose, you have to pick between mom or dad, and one is totally destroyed the other person's life apparently, and then the other one is like doesn't trust maybe your dad.
As a child and even now as an adult, I never felt I had to pick one. I felt that I had to survive. I already knew that I was the one they didn't want. So I never felt like, do I pick? I just knew. I always felt at the mercy of my mother, and I was at the mercy of my mother and my brothers and sisters. So to me, there was no picking. It was obvious. It was made blatantly clear. You do not fit in. You were the one I didn't want. So there was no picking. Oh, I'm so torn. I'm still not torn. It's my father. That's, as far as I'm concerned, my father's the only parent I ever had.
Well, and he also had that sense of self as well, where he doesn't fit in and he doesn't.
Oh yeah, and he was clear on that. He was very clear that and my father, thank God, like I said, and I think that's where I get it from. That once he realized I am never going to fit in here, he went off and he did what he wanted, which is what I've told you, that I've gone and traveled by myself without Elliot. My father would take trips. He wouldn't ask permission. He already knew. He said, you know what? I got it. I heard you the first time. I got it. I'm not part of this. So he continued to do the things that he loved, and he continued to live the life that he wanted. With again, my father traveled and he was learned and he went to university. He did everything, understanding that I'm never going to penetrate this cliff that's going on over here.
In my family.
Right. And that's what happened to me, where I just said, I got it. I heard you loud and clear, and I tried. My father asked me to forgive all of them. That lasted for about 6 months after he died, until they went right back into the abuse with me. And I left. I said, that's it. I gave him my best shot. And now I'm left with the scars of that. I'm left with to have to heal this on my own, because like my father, I'm not penetrating that cliff. That cliff, thank God, I'm never going to be able to penetrate it, and I don't want to. Yeah. I'm not going to go into a state of denial and hiding things under the rug and never talking about the abuse and everything else that went. Remember, I'm the one that did my 12 steps. Al-Anon, all of them, they did nothing. They did absolutely nothing, and that's them. That's them. And my goal is to change it. Yeah. I have nothing more to give.
Okay. So we're gonna do the forgiveness statements now. And again, for anyone who's watching, this is the crux of EPT. And I have a card that I follow, but I also have some other statements that I use, and I also sort of use intuition to make these statements according to what we've come up with. So we've got grief with myself in utero because I can't grow, fear that I'm gonna die, and also my dad's anger at my mom that he's ruining his life. And it might also be that feeling of ruining his life is, you know, if she manages to starve you, that would be like devastating. So so that might be a part of the feeling like she's ruining his life, is by starving herself and thereby starving you, and like just yeah. So all right, and then yeah, so we're gonna do that. So while we're doing statements, there are a couple of ways you can position yourself. You can tap the top of your head like this. So
Mm-hmm.
and I'll do some of that while we do statements. And if you get tired of that, you can hold these points right here. So like they're the fear release points, and then
I'll
you start
do.
to count in, or yeah, and release the fear there. I might be tapping my head too. So all right, so just repeat after me. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I have to hold on to grief with myself in utero
I have to hold on to grief with myself in utero
because I can't grow
because I can't grow
with my mom.
with my mom.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I have to hold on to fear
I hold on to fear
that my mom's gonna kill me
that my mom's going to kill me
and I'm gonna die.
and I'm going to die.
I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I have to hold on to fear being in utero
I have to hold on to fear being in utero
that my mom's gonna disconnect from me
that my mom's going to disconnect from me
and I'm gonna die.
and I'm going to die.
And it'll ruin my dad's life.
And it'll ruin my dad's life.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
that this grief I feel,
that this grief that I feel,
that I haven't paid attention
that I haven't paid attention
or grown enough,
or grown enough,
will always be this way in my life.
will always be this way in my life.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
that the anger my dad had at my mom
that the anger that my father had at my mother
was my fault
was my fault
because I was here.
because I was here.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
I had to take on the responsibility
I had to take on the responsibility
in utero
in utero
of saving my dad's life
of saving my dad's life
because my mom was ruining it.
because my mother was ruining it.
Yeah, breathe. I forgive myself
I forgive myself
for every time I hurt someone's feelings
for every time I hurt someone's feelings
because they're not growing
because they're not growing
up to the way I've taught them.
to the way that I taught them.
Yeah, breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
if I can't get Elliot to grow,
if I can't get Elliot to grow,
that will dishonor my father.
that would dishonor my father.
Yeah, breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
I can't grow
I can't grow
as long as my mom is holding me back.
as long as my mom is holding me back.
Yeah, breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
my mom has to change
my mom has to change
before I can let go
before I can let go
of the fear and grief
of the fear and grief
from in utero,
from in utero,
where I thought I would die.
of where I thought I would die.
And yeah, and breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I have to hold on to grief
I have to hold on to for grief
from when I was in utero
from when I was in utero
because my mom didn't want me to belong
because my mom didn't want me to belong
or fit in this family
or fit in this family
the same way she treated my dad.
the same way she treated my dad.
Yeah, and breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
Um, um, uh, I forgive myself for believing I can't connect or fit in.
I can't connect or fit in.
Because that's how my dad was.
Because that's how my dad was.
In our family.
In our family.
Yeah, breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I have to disconnect from my mother.
I have to disconnect from my mother.
And I have to disconnect from my mother in order to survive.
I have to disconnect from my mother in order to survive.
And be there for my dad.
And be there for my dad.
I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
It's too late to. It's too late. It's too late to pay attention.
To pay attention.
And be present.
And be present.
To how I have grown.
To be present to how I have grown.
And how I can grow.
And how I can grow.
In my for myself.
For myself.
In my family and relationship.
In my family and relationship.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I can't feel joy or relaxed.
I can't feel joy or relaxed.
I can't feel joy or relaxed until I pay attention.
Until I pay attention.
And live up to my dad's standard.
And live up to my dad's standard.
Or at least listen to his standard.
Or at least listen to his standard.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I can't grow.
I can't grow.
Or be happy.
Or be happy.
Until I pay attention.
Until I paid attention.
To my dad's lessons.
To my dad's lessons.
And meet some standard.
And meet some standard.
Yeah, and breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
Letting go of this fear and grief.
Letting go of this fear and grief.
Wouldn't be good for me.
Wouldn't be good for me.
Breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I have to take on this my dad's anger with my mom.
I have to take on my father's anger with my mother.
In order to fix myself and my family.
in order to fix myself and my family.
Yeah, and breathe. I forgive my mom
Forgive my mother
for not wanting me to be here.
for not wanting me to be here.
And breathe. I forgive my mother
I forgive my mother
for bringing up this fear and grief in me,
for bringing up this fear and grief in me,
where I couldn't grow
where I couldn't grow
and thought I would die
and thought I would die
uh, alone.
alone.
And breathe. I forgive my father
I forgive my father
for hurting my feelings
for hurting my feelings
when he was angry at my mother,
when he was angry at my mother,
uh, for ruining his life.
for ruining his life.
I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
I can't let go of my anger
I can't let go of my anger
because it wouldn't be good for me.
because it wouldn't be good for me.
I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
that by holding on to the anger,
that by holding on to the anger,
I can punish or hurt or change
I can punish, hurt, or change
the one who hurt me.
the one who hurt me.
Yeah, and breathe. I forgive myself
I forgive myself
for pouring all of my energy
for pouring all of my energy
into doing something I cannot do,
into doing something I cannot do,
making my mother
making my mother
treat me with the love and respect
treat me with the love and respect
I'm worthy of.
I'm worthy of.
I forgive myself
I forgive myself
pouring all of my energy
for pouring all of my energy
for doing something I can't do,
for doing something I can't do,
making another person treat me as worthy.
making another person treat me as worthy.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
that the anger I hold against someone
that the anger that I hold against someone
hurts them and protects me.
hurts them and protects me.
Breathe. I forgive myself
I forgive myself
for holding on to anger I have a right to
for holding on to anger I have a right to
as an act of loyalty
as an act of loyalty
to my father.
to my father.
Yeah, breathe. I give myself permission
I give myself permission
to take back my power
to take back my power
and use it to release the anger
and use it to release the anger
and the fear and the grief.
and the fear and the grief.
Yeah, breathe. I give myself permission
I give myself permission
to say yes
to say yes
to this justified anger,
to this justified anger,
and I call it up,
and I call it up,
and I release it from my body, mind, and spirit
and I release it from my body, mind, and spirit
to God's love and mercy.
to God's love and mercy.
And breathe.
And breathe.
Yeah. Without this anger,
Without this anger,
I open up massive space
I open up massive space
where God is the judge
where God is the judge
for the wrongs that have been done against me.
for the wrongs that have been done against me.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing
I forgive myself for believing
I had to give up my power to my mom,
I had to give up my power to my mother,
or she would kill me.
or she would kill me.
And breathe. I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
It's bad for me to own my own power.
It's bad for me to own my own power.
Because my mom might kill me.
Because my mom might kill me.
I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I have to have grief and fear.
I have had grief and fear.
When my mom takes my power.
When my mother takes my power.
I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
I can't use my power.
I can't use my power.
Without feeling guilty and ashamed.
Without feeling guilty and ashamed.
Or alone.
Or alone.
Because I don't think it's mine.
Because I don't think it's mine.
I forgive myself.
I forgive myself.
For denying God's gifts in my life.
For denying God's gifts in my life.
And letting someone else take my power.
And letting someone else take my power.
And give me a sense of purpose.
And give me a sense of purpose.
And breathe. Let's see. I give myself permission.
I give myself permission.
Or, sorry, I forgive myself for believing.
I forgive myself for believing.
If I use my power.
If I use my power.
I'll just be the bad guy.
I'll just be the bad guy.
And I'll be held responsible for all the bad that happens.
I didn't hear you.
And I'll be held responsible.
And I'll be held responsible.
For anything bad that happens.
For anything bad that happens.
I forgive my mom.
Forgive my mother.
For taking my power to grow when I was in utero.
For taking my power to grow when I was in utero.
I give myself permission.
I give myself permission.
To reclaim ownership.
To reclaim ownership.
Of my God-given power.
Of my God-given power.
And authority in my life.
And authority in my life.
Breathe. I give myself permission.
I give myself permission.
To use my power.
To use my power.
To let go.
To let go.
Of being owed anything.
Of being owed anything.
From my mother or my father.
From my mother or my father.
Or from Rudy or from Elliot.
Or from Rudy or from Elliot.
And breathe. Without this fear and grief.
Without this fear and grief.
That I'm going to die.
That I'm going to die.
I am free.
I am free.
To have faith.
To have faith.
And be relaxed.
And be relaxed.
Taking steps to grow.
Taking steps to grow.
And be present.
And be present.
So I can connect with others.
So I can connect with others.
And be successful as an independent woman.
And be successful as an independent woman.
And breathe. Without this pattern, I am free.
Without this pattern, I am free.
To let go of my dad's old standard.
To let go of my dad's old standard.
And feel faith.
And feel faith.
Competent.
Competent.
And relaxed.
And relaxed.
Growing in the direction I need to grow.
Growing in the direction I need to grow.
Breathe. Without this pattern, I am free.
Without this pattern, I am free.
To let go of the loyalty.
To let go of the loyalty.
To my dad's impossible standard.
I don't agree with that, but I'll say it for my father's impossible standard.
Well, but it's a standard. It's like it might be possible, but it's like in your mind it was almost impossible. Like, how about without this pattern?
Can you repeat that, please?
Oh, sorry. Without this pattern,
Without this pattern,
I am free
I am free
to um to to let love be the standard
to let love be the standard
and know that there is an abundance for everyone.
and know that there's an abundance for everyone.
Yeah, I'm free. Without this pattern, I am free
Without this pattern, I am free
to be there for my own well-being
to be there for my own well-being
and focus
and focus
on the present
on the present
and focus on the present and what I can do now
and what I can do now
to to love myself more.
to love myself more.
Yeah, I'm breathing. Without this pattern, I am free.
Without this pattern, I am free
to let go
to let go
of saving my dad's life
of saving my dad's life
or anyone's life.
or anyone's life.
Yeah, I'm free. Without this pattern, I am free
Without this pattern, I am free
to love my mother and my father more.
I thought we discussed that the children are not obligated. The last time I said children
You're not obligated, but it's
love them. I thought we'd agreed that you're the one that told me that children are not obligated to love their parents. So
I'm just giving you permission.
Okay.
So I'm just giving you permission.
Okay.
So I give myself, or without this pattern,
without this pattern,
I am free. Or yeah, I am free. Or how about I give myself permission
I give myself permission
to love my mom or my mother and my father more.
To love my mother and my father more.
I got it.
Oh, you
I
got
give
it?
myself permission to love all the parts of myself that are just like my mom and dad.
There you go.
I give myself permission to love all the parts
of myself
that are like
just like my mom and dad.
I give myself permission to love all the parts of myself that are just like my mother and my father.
And in that, I love them.
Can you repeat that? And in that,
I love them.
I love them.
That's how I love them. Yeah. I love everything in myself that looks a lot like them.
It looks a lot like them. And I do, because I give them both credit. I've always said good things from them.
And by loving myself and all that I am that looks like them, I show them love, honor, and respect. That's how I show them love and respect, by loving the parts of me that look like them. That is why you would honor your parents, because you are half both of them. You are half of them. And when you cannot, love is a squishy word, but honor is the one we're told from divine. Right. Honor your parents.
Exactly. You don't need to.
Honor says, I respect their place in my life.
Right.
And by holding that place of respect, I love what is in me that they gave me, because I wouldn't be there without them. I wouldn't
Thank you.
be here.
It resonates. Thank you.
Does that help?
That makes, yeah, that is a lot more clear, and it makes more sense, and that is more relevant and coherent for me.
Because I am not as interested in you loving your parents as loving yourself. But if you cannot love your parents, everything in you that looks like them, you will reject in you.
Right. And I love and honor my father, but I don't feel that for my mother. So what you just said helps because
I don't want you to when you reject the people that made you, you reject you.
Right. And that's that's a very divine understanding of it. Yes, absolutely. And just to be clear for everybody, because there's like 75 people listening to this, I love and honor my father, and I want to be clear because that's how much I love him. I want to be that there be it's my mother that the issues are coming up with for me. But yes, I get where you're going, and I appreciate your clarification on that. Thank you.
So can we do this? I give my mom permission to forgive me for.
I give my permission. I can't remember all of this. I need somebody to. I slow down.
I give my mom permission.
Go ahead. I give my mom
permission.
I give my mom permission
to forgive me.
To forgive me
for allowing her ungodly behavior.
For allowing her ungodly behavior.
To cause me to dishonor her or kick her out of.
Honor her.
Reject her.
Reject her.
And every part of myself that came from her.
Every part of myself that came from her.
I'm really sorry.
I'm really sorry.
Because that was an offense against God even more than my mom.
Because that was an offense against God more than my mother.
And I asked God to forgive me.
And I asked God to forgive me.
And I asked God to open up the rightful space.
And I asked God to open up the rightful space.
Where my mother belongs in my life.
Where my mother belongs in my life.
As my mother.
As my mother.
Right. Now, when I'm saying this, it doesn't mean you're going to become best friends with your mom. I'm saying there's parts in your life. Your mother exists in your lifeline. Maybe, like, she may not be in the lifeline right now, but your whole life isn't just this moment. It's all that has transpired and all that will transpire. So you're saying, all right, I'll open a space and I will allow God to put my mom in that God-given space as my mother in my lifeline. And because that's the honor I give her. I give her the space.
And I would say this helps you and Elliot's relationship as well, so that you guys can so that if your mom is in her space, like with honor, then you can sort of energetically be in your space and hold it instead of like the sort of what you have going on. So it'll help both of you, because you'll be able to hold your space better. Because before you're like, if I'm holding the space of a mother, that reminds me of my mother, and I don't want that. Right. So instead it's, I'm Yvette, I honor my mother, but I don't have to be like my mother.
Right. And I want to say, because this is like really pivotal for you. And you even said it right here at the end when you said, I'm really great at honoring my dad, but I recognize I'm not so good at that with my mom. And I don't even want to say I love, because it doesn't even feel like it's truthful.
And can I intervene for a second? It's not that I didn't want to say that. It's that the last time I saw Paige, she said to me, the children's, nowhere is it written that she said, I'm pretty sure that we need children, but our children don't need to love our parents. So I'm operating from, I heard that. I heard you say that, and now I'm being told to say something else. So that's where I'm operating from.
Yeah, and I was saying, like, I think it's like I'm still trying to figure it out. I mean, I'm always on the side of, you have to sort of honor your parents as a part of you, but that doesn't mean you have to, like, it's different. It's kind of a different sort of phrasing. I think sometimes when it's like, I love my parents, it's
affection.
Yeah, or an action.
We're not talking about affection.
Yeah, we're not talking about affection or or even an action necessarily.
And I think we're lucky if we can say that we both love and honor. If we're lucky enough to be able to say that we both love and honor our parents, that if we're lucky enough, and thank God I have at least one that I can say both with. At least with one, I can say both, and I can honestly say that. So.
Right. And what I wanted to say about that space is I wanted, where was it? It was very key. It was very key. And now it's like, it's you being able to, what was it? Well, I have to be able to love myself. That's what you started this session with. I want to love my life and myself. But my rejection or my repulsive, I know what it is. I forgive myself for giving my mother permission to define my worthiness for my life and my well-being instead of letting God define that.
Yes, perfect.
So
yes.
I forgive myself for allowing my mom.
I forgive myself for allowing my mother
to define my worthiness of love and belonging and prosperity
absolutely,
rather than
God. Absolutely.
And then breathe. My true divine creator. He's the reason I'm worthy. And not anything my mother did or said. She can no longer define that.
She can no longer define that.
And then breathe. Oh yeah, that's feeling so good. All those statements about power were all about this as well. But I'm thinking you're being able to kind of like get your head around being able to notice in yourself even things that look like your mother or things that, you know, that your mother did that you also do, that you are allowed to love that in your own life. That's where you open up more self-love is by loving, especially with parents, is maybe I can't love her because she's got a lot going on, but I'm half her. So I've got to identify what in me can I love that raises or opens the space for more honor and respect of her and a freedom to not be defined by how she treated me. I'm not going to be defined by that anymore.
Yeah. And, you know, Annette, I want to just to share some information. When I was in Al-Anon, one of the things that my sponsor had me do was write out a letter to my mother, because I see those parts of me that are my mother, and to be appreciative of those characteristics, traits, whatever, that are like my mother. And, you know, I think it was, I don't remember if it was Marianne Williamson when she wrote, her book, she said that the longest journey you'll ever take is the one from your, you know, the 14 inches from your head to your heart. And that's what it is. On a logical level, I know the parts of me that are like my mother that I appreciate, but it hasn't reached that heart space yet. And I really believe that when it does reach that heart space, that's when the healing really begins.
That's when you really, because when it hits that heart space, it means there's nothing separating me from loving all of me.
Yes, absolutely.
All of me.
Level, but with her,
my mom did not love all of me.
Right.
So I have to love the part of me that's having trouble loving all of me.
Exactly. That's my dharma. I've got to, that is what that is what my thing is. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because these chains, I want them to end with me. If not with anybody else, I want them to end with me.
You're there. You are so there. This is the time. This is the time in history where things are changing way more rapidly, and you are so, oh my goodness, you're so getting there. It's there.
You know, and then my favorite quote is Sir Isaac Newton's, "If I have seen farther is by standing on the shoulders of giants." And if it wasn't for the sponsors that I had in Al-Anon, if it wasn't for my yoga instructors, if it wasn't for my rabbi, and all those people that helped me along the way, and then me putting the effort, and And Paige knows that about me, that I don't just sit around hoping that somebody, I do the work. I do the work and I do the work. And I always said I have a PhD on my problem. You know what I mean? I have such a freaking PhD on my problem. You know, I'm so self-aware of that. And I won't sit still because I don't want to die that I didn't take the chance, that I didn't, because I've seen people die that way. And I don't want to die that, oh, I didn't look at it, or I was in denial and I didn't take the step and I didn't try and I didn't do that. At least at the end of my life, I want to know that I gave it 150% and I gave it a shot. My story's not over yet. And I truly believe that the last part of my life is going to be the best. It will be.
You know what?
I'm not going to be dropped off like this.
That is all going to be precipitated by this massive expansion of love within yourself, for yourself, and for everything that got you here. And that's that moment of, oh my goodness, wow, I'm not holding the grudge. I'm just grateful. I'm just eternally grateful.
Yeah. And you know, I'm aware that I'm grieving everything that I never had a chance to grieve. You know, I never had a chance to grieve Rudy and my father because I was busy trying to make sure me and my son didn't end up homeless. You know what I mean? So I'm just now, you know, even though Rudy died 4.5 years ago, my father died 4.5 years ago, it is now that the storm has ended, there's no more estates to settle. Now I finally get a chance. And my story is not unlike anybody else. I met so many people that never got a chance to grieve. And I am grieving that little girl that didn't get a chance. I'm grieving my whole freaking life right now. And thank God I've got the time to do it.
You know what? And I want to say, fundamentally, from an energetic standpoint, the thing you want to grieve is that you gave your life to the wrong person.
Thank you. Somebody said it besides me. Thank you.
Now,
yes, I am. That is exactly right.
But I want you to take it another step. You need to take your life back.
Yes.
But the reason you need to take your life back is to give it to God. You give your life to God, and that changes everything.
And that's what I'm doing. And that is what my father, I wish you guys spoke Spanish, because again, you're dealing with a Hispanic Jew, which is nothing easy to deal with. My father, all right, so remember, so you've got a lot of culture going on in here too. So my father used to say, no se desprende de la mano de Dios, nunca te desprende de la mano de Dios. And what that means is do not, desprender means to detach. He said, never detach from the hand of God. And that is what I've held on to. And that's what's kept me afloat. And that's why I haven't slit my wrist. Not that I would.
Let me tell you, here's the step you missed. You were a tiny little in utero baby and you gave your life to your mother. And here you are, you've been trying desperately to live your dad's model, which was giving his life to God, instead of giving it to people who trash it, giving it to people who put limitations and restrictions on you, giving it to people who are not up to any good for you.
That's exactly.
You have to realize that when you give your life to God, and that was the model you gave, that your dad gave you. What I'm telling you right here, this session pointed out really big that there was you've been trying to give a life away that you already gave away. You have to get the life back, and then
and that's what I meant when I go back and get her. When I said I got to save her, I wasn't talking about going back to where I was. That's what I was saying. That you pinned it perfectly. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, that is that right there is the whole thing. Yep.
I'm reclaiming myself.
Yes. Well, you know what? I have to dodge out of here. It was lovely meeting you.
Yes,
I think you're amazing.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go.
The post-test stress is down, elation is up on staying present, and stage of healing is 6. So that's good. We're past acceptance. We're in light emerging.
I feel like I was heard. And that Arnett, you really articulated that exactly right, because you were saying what I've been thinking, and that and you're absolutely right. Thank you. I appreciate all the feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette,
You
for
should
sharing
have
with
it
us.
You should have it in writing. You'll have it in writing, so you can like look it over again and go, yes, that's it. And if you want to watch the video, that's fine too. Writing is sometimes faster to remind yourself. So I typed most everything, and then Paige typed a bunch.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. You have a great day. I have to go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We can.
Okay.
We're good. I'm just stopping.